everything. Kama, producer. Mahi, the land. Shishichusma, moisten. Vrajan, pasturing grounds. Gavaha, the cow. Payasa udasvatihi, due to swollen milk bags. Muda, because of joyful attitude. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Arvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. During the reign of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. Kindly repeat. During the reign of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, the clouds showered all the water that people needed, and the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Due to its fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, the cow used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The basic principle of economic development is centered on land and cows. The necessities of human society are food grains, fruits, milk, minerals, clothing, wood, etc. One requires all these items to fulfill the material needs of the body. Certainly one does not require flesh and fish or iron, tools and machineries. During the regime of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira all over the world, there were regulated rainfalls. Rainfalls are not in the control of the human being. The heavenly king Indradeva is the controller of rains, and he is the servant of the Lord. When the Lord is obeyed by the king and the people under the king's administration, there are regulated rains from the horizon, and these rains are the causes of all varieties of production on the land. Not only do regulated rains help ample production of grains and fruits, but when they combine with astronomical influences, there is ample production of valuable stones and pearls. Grains and vegetables can sumptuously feed a man and animals, and a fatty cow delivers enough milk to supply a man sumptuously with vigor and vitality. If there is enough milk, enough grains, enough fruit, enough cotton, enough silk, and enough jewels, then why do the people need cinemas, houses of prostitution, slaughterhouses, etc.? What is the need of an artificial, luxurious life of cinema, cars, radio, flesh, and hotels? Has this civilization produced anything but quarreling individually and nationally? Has this civilization enhanced the cause of equality and fraternity by sending thousands of men to a hellish factory and the war fields at the whims of a particular man? It is said here the cows used to moisten the pasturing land with milk because their milk bags were fatty and the animals were joyful. Do they not require therefore proper protection for a joyful life of being fed with a sumptuous food, being fed with a sufficient quantity of grass in the field? Why should men kill cows for their selfish purposes? Why should man not be satisfied with grains, fruits and milk, which combined together can produce hundreds and thousands of palatable dishes? Why are there slaughterhouses all over the world to kill innocent animals? Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, while touring his vast kingdom, saw a black man attempting to kill a cow. The king at once arrested the butcher and chastised him sufficiently. Should not a king or executive head protect the lives of the poor animals who are unable to defend themselves? Is this humanity? Are not the animals of a country citizens also? Then why are they allowed to be butchered in organized slaughterhouses? Are these the signs of equality, fraternity, and non-violence? Therefore, in contrast with the modern advanced civilized form of government, an autocracy like Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira's is by far superior to a so-called democracy in which animals are killed and a man less than an animal is allowed to cast votes for another less than an animal man. We are all creatures of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord Himself is the seed-giving Father and material nature is the mother of all living beings in all shapes. Thus, Mother Material Nature has enough foodstuff both for animals and for men. By the grace of the Father Almighty, Shri Krishna, the human being is the elder brother of all other living beings. He is endowed with intelligence more powerful than animals for realizing the course of nature and the indications of the Almighty Father. Human civilization should depend on the production of material nature without artificially attempting economic development to turn the world into a chaos of artificial greed and power only for the purpose of artificial luxuries and sense gratification. This is but the life of dogs and hogs. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamy Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarne. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In continuation with the description of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira's rulings, in this verse it is said that during the ruling of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, Kamam Varsha Prajanyaha, the clouds showered all the water that people needed. And the earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. Sarvakama Dugamahi. Mahi means earth. So earth produced all the necessities of man in profusion. And the cows with their fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude, they used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. So this was the opulence during the ruling of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira. Prabhupada says in the purport, the basic principle of economic development is centered on land and cows. And even in the shloka says that the cows used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. Now to get pure cow milk only is so difficult. We have to pay huge amount for even 1 liter of milk. But in those days it was in profusion. They used to moisten the grazing ground with milk. To get rainfall and to get moistened the ground with water only is so difficult. During that time it used to be moistened with milk. Because of the fatty milk bag and cheerful attitude of the cows. And the cows can be so healthy and produce so much of milk only when they are, as it is said, cheerful attitude, when they are protected, when they feel that protection. But Prabhupada says in the purport of the modern civilization, where the cows are sent to the slaughterhouses for flesh. And Prabhupada says, why What is the need to have flesh? Why can't we sustain with the milk and food grains that is produced by the earth? But the civilization has gone in a wrong direction, by which people are totally sustaining on flesh, maximum. If we take a statistics, the vegetarians who sustain on the grains will be much less than the non-vegetarians. That is the reason there are so many slaughterhouses which kill animals in mass. Thousands and thousands of animals are killed at a time for the supply of flesh. When we were children, we used to see cartoons, right? And one of the famous character of that time was Mowgli. He used to live in the jungle amongst the wolves, and he was brought up by the animals over there, wild animals over there, and the story goes like that. But actually, in the 1860s, there was a group of hunters in Uttar Pradesh. When they went to the forest for hunting in 1860s, they found a boy with a group of wolves there. And they brought him from the forest, and they handed him over to the district collector over there, and then he was later sent to an orphanage in Agra. And because he came on a Saturday, they named him as Shanichar, which means Shanivar or something. So he was named as Shanichar. That boy, for around 6 to 7 years, he lived in the forest with the wolves. And he didn't know language to speak, because nobody taught him over there. Later also, he lived amongst the humans for 30 years more, but he could never learn language to speak. And he used to walk with 4 legs, he used to eat raw meat, he used to cry like wolves. Everything behavior was like animal. But he used to eat, he used to sleep, and he used to do his daily activities. Now, if we compare the modern civilization with that of that character Mowgli, what is the difference? He used to eat raw meat, and men used to eat cooked flesh. He used to live like an animal. He used to not to speak, there was no communication skills, but men had developed some communication skills. Men used to live with modern technology of that time, but he was a primitive animal behavior person. But in the Shastras it says, Ahara nidra bhaya maitunam cha samanyam etat pashubi naranam. Eating, sleeping, mating and defending. These 4 are natural for humans and animals. The modern man lives with these four things, and even that animal behavior man was also living with these four characters, with these four behaviors. But that person was living like an animal, totally like an animal. But humans were living like a sophisticated animals. Prabhupada here, that's why he says, Prabhupada in the purport equates the human being to animals, because they are also behaving like animals in a sophisticated way. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, what is the need to send all these cows and innocent animals to the slaughterhouses? Has this civilization produced anything but quarreling and individually and nationally? Why war and all are there in human beings? To defend. That animals have some special devices within themselves through which they defend, like the bulls or some deers, they have horns. The buffaloes have strong horns. We can see even sometimes tigers and lions, they won't, when they are in single, they won't try to attack these buffaloes and bulls, because they will be so powerful, they will lift and throw the lions and tigers with their horns. So they have their defending measures to protect themselves. And the defending measures of the human being is so many weapons, knife, guns, rifles, all those things. But the activity is same, defense. There is no difference in that. Animals defend themselves with their claws and horns, and human beings defend themselves with knives and rifles and weapons. But activity is same. So Shastra says, Shri Shri Radha Govind ki jai. What is the difference then between the humans and the animals? When the humans are also, so-called humans are also doing these four activities of eating, sleeping, mating and defending, and the animals are also doing the same activity of eating, sleeping, mating and defending. Prabhupada in a conversation says, if we get disease, what is the precautionary measure that we take? The precautionary measure that we take is immediately we run to the doctor, we run to the hospital to cure the disease. If there is some fire accident in big buildings, apartments, there will be fire alarms, there will be precautionary measures for extinguishing fires. And even in small structures also, like even in this temple we have 3-4 fire extinguishers to protect, it is as a precautionary measures against some fire accident if it happens. So all these precautionary measures we take, why? To save life, to get out of, to mitigate suffering. We have AC. Why? During summer we feel too hot. So we have air conditioner which cools the environment and it makes us to live comfortably. So we don't want sufferings. And to mitigate the suffering, we take precautionary measures. We take precautionary measures to mitigate sufferings. But animals also has their own ways of mitigating sufferings. But Prabhupada says, when there is fire accident happens, man immediately takes the precautionary measures of whatever he has and he extinguishes the fire. But animals, they'll just try to run away from that fire. But if it is too much, they'll just accept death. So, whenever there is danger, man takes precautionary measures to avoid that danger. Whenever there is suffering, like even in recent times of COVID, there was a pandemic, and immediately to avoid the suffering, he took precautionary measures of vaccine, producing vaccine and giving it to the general people. Why? To avoid suffering. So Prabhupada asks, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, birth, death, old age and disease. These are all natural occurrences in the human society. What measures has man taken to avoid birth and death? To avoid a disease, of course, he may take some medicine but still 100% he cannot avoid disease. With so much of sophisticated machineries, technology, advancement in technology, still man could not completely mitigate disease. Man could not avoid old age. So many people are there who at the ripened age of old age, they are suffering with so much of ailments in the body. Man can give some medicine and for temporarily he can avoid the pain, but he cannot give complete solution for those things. These things are unavoidable. So what measure man has taken to avoid birth, death, old age and disease? These four things man accepts exactly like how animal accepts them. Little bit he tried to fight with disease, that's all. Apart from that, death he cannot avoid. With the modern technology, advancement in technology and civilization, he could not avoid these four things. But there are measures that we can take to avoid even birth and death, which in the bygone ages, even the many acharyas came and they gave this knowledge of how to avoid, how to take measures, precautionary measures against birth and death. In the Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which explains about the Karma Yoga, Krishna instructs Arjuna that in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you all desirable things." Just like how we see in this shloka, all the desirable things of the people were met during the ruling of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, because Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira was a devotee of the Lord and used to exactly follow the Vedic principles, and he was ruling the people, monitoring that even the people follow the Vedic rituals, Vedic principles, and live with those principles. So here Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord of all creatures sent for generation of men. During the creation, when human beings were created, demigods were created, along with that sacrifices were created, were born, along with sacrifices for Vishnu, and they were blessed that by performance of this, by performance of yajna, the human being will be bestowed by all the desirable things. Human beings will perform yajna, and by performance of yajna, the demigods will be pleased, and the demigods will bestow the necessities of the human beings. In the next shloka it says, the demigods being pleased by sacrifices will also please you, thus nourishing one another, there will be rain, general prosperity for all. So now if we say this to advanced modern civilized man, he'll say, what is the need of this? Why we should follow this Vedic principles? Because in the next shloka Krishna says, Yagnartat Yagnashishta Shena Santo Muchyante Sarva Kilvishihi. One should offer food in oblations to the yajna and then honor it. Without offering food to the yajna, if you honor it, it is sin. He will be eating only sin. So now, if you take animals, among animals, there are cows which sustain on only grass. They won't eat flesh. And there are many such herbivorous animals which eat only grass, leaves. But there are few animals which live on flesh. Tiger, lion. If you give grass to them, they won't accept. So it's been intuited for the tigers and lions that they should sustain on flesh only. They should sustain on flesh. So by birth, the lion and tiger and all, they sustain on only flesh. Natural. And by birth, cows and other herbivorous animal will sustain only on grass and trees, green leaves, all those things. That is also intuited to them. But what is the food for human being? From childhood, we just follow what we are taught. There is no intuition in us. There is no intuition in us. We should learn and make a choice. That we learn even from the childhood. We learn it from the elders. And we have a choice to make. That choice ability is given only to the human beings, not to the animals. There is no choice for tiger. You can eat flesh or green leaves. No. Tiger should eat only flesh. Similarly, there is no choice for cows. They should eat only grass. They will eat only grass. But human being has a choice. And on what basis you should choose? Human beings, for their life, God has given a manual. The Creator has given a manual. That is what Krishna says here. That when human beings were created, yajnas were. They were. That is why the human being is having the ability to read, write. That is why human life is more valuable. Because he can understand the higher standards of life. Higher standards of life are beyond eating, sleeping, mating and defending. Higher standard of life is to understand what life is. Higher standard of life is to understand the purpose of life. During the time of Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, the king knew the purpose of life. He taught to his subjects that purpose of life. And he made his subjects to live a life leading towards that purpose. It was not like an animal life, just eat, sleep and die. So that is the distinction between that makes a distinction between human beings and animal life. Just I quoted the verse, Ahara nidra bhayam aitunam cha samanyam etat pashubi naranam dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubi samana. Dharma of to understand what is my purpose of life is possible only in the human beings, not to the animals. Animals cannot understand the purpose of life. Only human beings can understand the purpose of life. And that purpose is given in the Vedic literatures, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so, it is very important for us to live a life following these guidances given in the Shastras, instructions given by the Acharyas, without which our life will be just an animalistic life. Mowgli lived in jungle, we are living in concrete jungle. That's all. So that doesn't make any difference. Just because we are living a sophisticated life in a concrete jungle, we'll still will be an animal in a jungle only. But when we dovetail everything in the service of Krishna, as Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira did during his rulings, that makes a sense of human life. So it is very important for the human being to understand this purpose. And in the modern days, actually, the leaders, just like Mahārāja Yudhiṣṭhira, he was the leader. He was the king. He knew the purpose of life and he taught it to his subjects. But in modern age, the leader is the first person who is ignorant to all these things. That's why Prabhupada says here, human beings who are less than animal vote for another animal like man. Because he also does not know the purpose of life. He is leading like an animal and he leads others also to live like animal. So, all these Shastras, instructions of the Lord, instructions of the Acharyas are meant to make our life successful by following it, by applying it in our life, without which we'll be just living a life of animal in a concrete jungle. We'll stop here. Any questions? Yes.
Please accept my respectful obeisances for your lectures, for teaching us. Respectful obeisances to all devotees of Shri Krishna. Please, my question is not directly related to this topic. Can I ask, but still?
Yes.
In one of the reincarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I understand he came as Buddha. And maybe I'm wrong, but in my own understanding, Buddha was an atheist. Please, can you clarify that?
Prabhupada says, at the beginning of Kali Yuga, Buddha came in the Kali Yuga actually. And in the Vedas it is said, Yajna is meant for Kruta Yuga. Krute Dhyayato Vishnu. Meditation were in the Kruta Yuga. In the beginning of creation, they used to meditate and attain perfection in life. Krute Dhyayato Vishnu. Tretayam Yajato Makai. In Treta Yuga, they used to perform Yajna. And there were perfect Brahmanas to perform those yajnas in the Kruta Yuga. Dwapare Paricharyaya. During Dwapara Yuga, they used to perform deity worship and establish big temples during that time. Kalauta Dhari Kirtanam. And in Kali Yuga, the perfection, the path of perfection is chant the holy names of the Lord. Hari Kirtana. But following the Vedic principles, in the Kali Yuga, beginning of Kali Yuga, people used to perform yajna and they used to sacrifice animals a lot. And because they were not proper Brahmanas or properly they were not performing those yajnas and sacrificing the animals, it used to lead to sinful activities. And Buddha came to stop those sinful activities of the human beings. And he tried to stop them performing the yajnas. But they referred that Vedas, it is mentioned that perform yajna. So outrightly Buddha said, I won't believe in Vedas, I won't believe in God. You just follow me. But Prabhupada says, Buddha himself was God. They started following Buddha. In that way, they were following the Supreme Personality of Godhead only. They were worshipping Supreme Person only. But not in a direct way, in an indirect way. So, again to establish Vedas and again to establish the scriptures, Shankaracharya came. And later on Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya came to re-establish the Dharma. So, Buddha came just to stop for the time being the follow of Vedic rituals, not for permanently. Immediately it was re-established by the Acharyas. Is that okay? Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
శ్రీకృష్ణుణ్ణి చేరుకోవడానికి కృష్ణ భక్తిని అందరికీ అందించటానికి బృందావనం వైపు ఉరకలేస్తున్న యమునోత్రి. విష్ణుపాదమే తన పుట్టినిల్లుగా కైలాసం చేరుకోవడానికి పరుగులు తీస్తున్న గంగోత్రి. కురుక్షేత్ర ఘోరహత్యా పాపం శంకరుణ్ణి శాంతపరచడం లక్ష్యంగా పాండవులు నిర్మించిన కేదార్నాథ్. సమస్త సాధు పుంగవులకు, ఋషులకు, ఆధ్యాత్మిక సాధనకు స్ఫూర్తినిచ్చే నరనారాయణులను నడయాడిన ప్రదేశం బద్రీనాథ్.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణవాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణవాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి